What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you my top 7 active flexibility stretches that you can start doing right now that I've been doing for my entire training career. We're going to be covering 4 for the upper body and 3 for the lower body. They're going to be targeting pretty much every single muscle, and we're not only going to be building flexibility, but we're also going to be building a strength. That's why it's called active flexibility. I'll see you on the video. Alright, family, before we start on the 7 stretches that I want to talk, I just want to briefly mention the difference between passive flexibility and active flexibility. We actually have 4 types of flexibility, but that's for an entire different video. If you want us to cover that, please leave it in the comment section down below. Now, I just want to make clear the distinction between active and passive. Passive, we're going to use the hamstring as an example. Passive is simply the ability to get the joint through a full range of motion with the assistance of somebody, gravity, whatever. In this case, it's going to be gravity. I'm stretching my hamstring in a very passive way because I'm not doing anything and my hamstrings are lengthening. Now, if I want to lengthen my hamstrings in an active way, I'm going to be lifting my leg up. I'm going to be using my hip flexor, which is normally the antagonist muscle of the one that you're trying to stretch. So I'm stretching my hamstrings, but I'm using the muscles of my leg, of my hip flexor, to actually stretch the hamstrings. This will be considered an active flexibility. Those 2 positions are active and passive, and they're considered static, meaning that I'm just not moving. The stretches that we're going to be doing is going to be a combination of static and dynamic, whether it is static, holding a position, or dynamic, moving through a position, but always using our muscles, either the muscle that we're trying to stretch or the antagonist muscle of the one that we're trying to stretch. That is going to build more strength through length, and it's going to allow you to control that joint through that full range of motion. Passive stretching is great. I teach it. It's been proven to be even more effective than dynamic stretching in some instances. There are some nuances in there. But again, if you want to build a strength through range and have control over certain ranges of motion, active flexibility would be the way to go. So stay tuned for the video. Alright, family, the first one for the upper body is going to be one that is very, very humbling, and many of you might not be able to do the exercise correctly or get to do the exercise, but with the following flexibility exercises that we're going to be looking after that, it's going to improve this exercise. However, the exercise that I'm talking about is called the wall slides. Let me demonstrate that exercise first. We basically get our low back, our upper back, everything in contact with the wall by a small posterior pelvic tilt, literally pushing our entire back towards the wall. Then we get into a 90-90 position, and the back of our shoulders, the elbows, and the wrists are touching, and we go from a 90-90 position to a full overhead position, keeping in contact the wrist, the elbows, and the shoulders throughout the entire movement. Now, if many of you try this movement, many things could happen. Your wrist could get off the wall, or your back will arch just in an attempt to compensate for the lack of external rotation or shoulder flexion. So you might think that you are here, but when you do this, when you touch the wall, then this is going to come out. Because why? We don't have the proper external rotation of the shoulder, and let alone get the arm fully overhead in this plane of motion, in the frontal plane, to actually perform the exercise. Nothing wrong, not judgment. Again, on the following exercises, we're going to be seeing how to improve the tight muscles that are pulling your shoulder into internal rotation, namely the subscapularis, teres major, as well as your pec. We're going to be stretching those muscles with the following stretches. But let me give you some progressions and also some regressions, and also some progressions for all my advanced folks that can already do this, and this is super easy. I do this before every upper body workout that I do, and especially before handstands, because it literally sets me up into this shape and position, and it warms up my entire posterior chain, which is a fancy name of saying your back muscles. Now, if you cannot do this, we're going to reduce the amount of external rotation that we need. And how we do that is, instead of going with the fist in this direction, we're going to be doing in a neutral position, so the palms are facing each other. This basically, instead of here, I'm actually around here. And from here, you try to do the same. You try to keep everything in contact with the wall, up and down. If that doesn't work, you're going to go with the thumb. Again, now we went from here. If we go to the thumb, we reduce the amount of external rotation that we need to perform the exercise. We try to go up and then we try to go back. If that doesn't work, do the exercises that we're going to be doing next. But even if your wrist doesn't touch, just the intention of having them touch is going to make the exercise effective. So it doesn't have to touch, but as long as you're really trying to get the wrist back, even if the elbow goes off, but as long as you are trying to get the arms back, both the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist, you are making the exercise effective. So give that a go, and again, do not get discouraged. Unless you are like right here, then if you are right here, I would not do the exercise. But if you're here and you have some room to play around and you feel it on the back of your body, then you're doing the exercise correctly. For all my advanced folks, or for all the people that has enough range of motion, even past beyond this range, but you feel kind of loose and your shoulders doesn't feel as stable, we're gonna be building some strength. This is something that I do because, as you probably guys know, I have extreme ranges of motion, but I'm lacking mainly stability and strength. So you're gonna wrap a band, you're gonna create some tension, so just don't be relaxed right here. You're gonna create some tension, you're gonna bring the elbow back in line with the shoulder into horizontal adduction, and then you're gonna be doing a Cuban rotation, so the wrist end up right on top of the elbow, and from here you're going to keep that external rotation as you go up, keeping it, don't allow the hand to go forward, but keep that external rotation, press all the way up, and then press all the way down. You can do one arm at a time, or if you have two bands of the same size, you can do the same. You can also attach it close to the wall and do it with the wall, just to make sure that you're actually not losing the external rotation. But again, it's very hard to find a pole with enough resistance that is gonna, or the right resistance towards the wall, so you can absolutely do it without the wall. Just film yourself and make sure that the hand is not going forward as you go up, but you're keeping that external rotation and you're able to go all the way up and down. All your back muscles are going to feel it, you are going to feel it, and it's gonna be good for you. I'll see you on the next one. And the second one, we're gonna be building our chest with 1 pound. I'm kidding. Actually, we're going to be using 1 pound, but we're actually going to be stretching the pec, because the pec, it's an internal rotator, which is going to prevent you, it's one of the muscles that actually prevents you from getting to that external rotation and actually doing the wall slice. Now, the goal is not to do the wall slice. The goal is to be able to get our shoulders into a proper, decent amount of external rotation, as well as getting our arms overhead. And the pec also prevents that from happening, especially the pec minor. The stretch that we're going to be doing is a loaded flexibility stretch. I mean, you can stretch your pec passively with just a pole and just doing this motion right here, but this is an active flexibility video, so we're going to be doing it actively. The benefit of using load and the benefits of just doing active flexibility in general is that we're building a strength through range. So with the loaded pec stretch I'm going to be demonstrating, we don't only get a chance to get a deeper range of motion because of the load that we're adding, but we're also building a strength in that end range, which is the maximum range that the joint can go. For this one, we're going to set it up in a bench or something thin that you can actually allow your arms to go to the side, so a box wouldn't really work because you will feel stuck. We want to get the arms to the side, so you can film this from the side and see how far you go. If you're like around here, you do need some serious work to do. If you're around here, you do need some serious work to do. Ideally, we're working for around 45 degrees would be like a normal range, but again, the more technically, the more could be, the better, depending on your goals. Shout out to Matthew Smith. That's where I got this exercise from. He probably got it from somebody else, from another coach, but credits where it's due. From here, you're gonna start with the arms as straight as you possibly can, just to minimize any compensations. And you're going to open very slow in a 2 to 3 control negative. At the same time, you're extending and rotating the shoulders. So imagine that the biceps are gonna be facing you, and you're gonna be following the chest fibers. And just to keep it super simple, the chest fibers are going to run. I'm gonna do just one side now. The chest fibers run in this direction. And to just make sure that they're aligned with those fibers, just make sure that this is aligned with the ear. Right here, you get to the maximum range of motion, and whenever we're working on end range strength, you wanna hold that position for around 2 to 3 seconds and then go back up. So the full demonstration of the exercise would be 1, 2, 3, you hold for 1, 2, 3, and then go back up. You can also do 2 seconds, so 1, 2, and then hold here for 1, 2, and then go back up. One more time, arms are fully straight. As you go here, you are extending and rotating the shoulders, so the biceps are facing up or even backwards, and you're following the chest fiber. So again, this is in line with my ear as much as possible. You should really feel a stretch on your pec. Whether you should add load to progress, whether you should hold longer in the position to progress, whether you should go deeper every time to progress, it's going to depend on a myriad of different factors that go beyond the scope of this video. I could make an entire 1 hour long video on just this exercise. So if you want that, please leave it in the comment section down below. But this is an amazing exercise to stretch your pec, which again is going to help you with that external rotation and with everything that is overhead. Stay tuned for the following one, which is going to stretch more the internal rotators, and it's also going to help for the wall slides. Let's go to the third exercise. We're going to be anchoring a band pretty low in a pole. I'm going to explain why. And for this exercise, we're going to call it shoulder external rotation, PNF, which stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitator. You don't need to remember the name, and you can also call it however you want to call this exercise. But PNF is a technique where we do some active contraction and then we do some passive relaxation contraction. It has been proven just to increase flexibility faster than just passive stretching in some instances, and it's a form of active flexibility. What we're going to be doing is now directly working on opening into the external rotation position. I know we've talked a lot about the shoulders in the entire upper body section, and the last one is also about shoulders, but again, the previous one was about the chest, the other one was more about posterior chain stability, and pretty much upper body, what we really need and what most people lack is just shoulder mobility, and that could be tight chest, could be tight lats, could be tight external rotators, but we're working with the shoulder joint because it's the shoulder that we use the most in calisthenics, and the joint that we actually use the most in general when it comes to the upper body. If you would like something for the spine or whatnot, please leave it in the comment section down below. But yeah, pretty much I just realized that the upper body is covering mainly shoulders. Enough talking. You're gonna wrap the band in a low setting. This is gonna build a strength, stability, as well as passive flexibility. You're gonna get the knee on the side of the elbow or the shoulder that you're gonna be working on. You're gonna bring it to about in a position that you're comfortable. Could be here 45 degrees, could be here fully open. Just make sure that the torso is actually facing forward. Now, from here, make sure that you're in a 90-90 position. So if your knee's too high and the elbow's too high, just walk the feet slightly forward so you're in a 90 position. Also, if you are here, you're not in a 90 position. So trial and error, film yourself, and just make sure that the shoulder is aligned with the elbow and the elbow is aligned with the wrist. You're not here, you're not here, you're here. From here, you're gonna create some tension that it's already tense when I'm in this position. I'm using this hand for support right here. You wanna be fully stable, facing forward, and you're gonna be pulling into internal rotation for about 5 to 10 seconds, as hard as you can possibly do. If it's not too much, you can make some more tension. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you're gonna allow the band to pull you deeper into external rotation. Now we're stretching all the internal rotators, which is gonna be your teres major, your subscapularis, and even some part of your pec. Is gonna be a stretch right here, depending on which muscle you have tightness the most. You're gonna be relaxing for around 15 to 20 seconds, and that is one round. You're gonna be doing 3 rounds at a time. So there you go again, 5 to 10 seconds contraction, and then you relax for around 15 to 20 seconds to even 30 seconds. Every time that you do one round, you're gonna see that you're gonna be able to go deeper into that stretch. And 3 rounds would form as one set. Then you do the other side, you rest for about 60 to 90 seconds, and then you repeat for 2 to 3 rounds. Flexibility is different than a strength training in a sense that with a strength training, with every set you get more tired. With flexibility, with every set you should be more open. So expect on the third set to get more deeper into external rotation. Again, I don't expect you to get here. You're probably working in this range, but over time it's going to allow you to get to this position, which is going to facilitate for the wall slide, so you can create stability here, you can create mobility here, and if you need some flexibility on your chest, you're going to be using the previous exercise. Let's look at the last one, which is probably the king of shoulder mobility exercises. If that gives you some cringing, I understand I have 40 plus dislocation in both of my shoulders. It's been like 5 years that I don't dislocate my shoulder, but this exercise is actually called shoulder dislocate. Well, for all my PTs, it's called scapular distractions or something like that. You can type that on the comment, but it's best known as shoulder dislocate. Here we're bringing literally our shoulder through an entire range of motion, and we're building strength, mobility, and stability through that. The wider you go, the easier it is, and the narrower you go, the more difficult it is. This is going to stretch your pec, it's going to stretch your lats, it's going to stretch everything that prevents you from going overhead, and not only overhead, but also into full extension. I'm going to keep this explanation up to here. We're going to link a video up here and down in the description, because we have a 10 or 15 or I think it's 20-minute long video explaining everything you ever want to know and more than you ever would want to know about the shoulder dislocate. So we're going to be linking down and somewhere here for you to watch that video and get in depth. But it's an amazing exercise if you want to really build strong shoulders. I'll see you for the lower body. All right, family, we'll move on now to the lower body section. The first one is going to be targeting our entire posterior chain in an active fashion. The exercise, you probably know it, is called good mornings, and you can only do it in the morning. If you do it at night, it doesn't work. That was a bad joke, right? Yeah. So good mornings, you can do it standing, which is the easier version, and you can do it sitting down. I'm going to be showing some variations, but basically you can also do it legs together, but I like to do it in a straddle position because it's more transferable to anything that we want to do with like straddle presses or stalder presses or whatnot. We simply want to learn how to hinge from the hips. So it's not about doing this motion right here. The exercise is doing this motion right here. A good way to practice that motion is if you go back to the wall, just stand a few inches from the wall, and the goal is to touch the wall with your butt. If it doesn't happen, you're simply compensating and rounding from the spine, and you don't know yet how to properly hinge from your hips. So hips go back and touches. If that prevents you from going lower, you simply go a little bit forward and do that. Or don't use the wall at all and learn how to actually properly hinge from the hips. You go from here, hips back, and then you go forward. Legs are fully straight in this case, and as we go down, we kind of anteriorly tilt the pelvis, not excessively, but enough just so we get a deep stretch on the hamstrings. Again, this is going to depend on what you're actually looking for, but if we're working towards increasing range of motion on the hamstrings, yes, the most anterior pelvic tilt, the most stretch the hamstrings are going to be, the pre-stretch the hamstrings are going to be, and the deeper there or the longest they are going to get as you go through the exercise. I'm going to be demonstrating the seated version if that's too easy. I highly recommend that for the majority of people you work standing. You can do it with a dumbbell right here to increase load. You can also increase on depth, or you can increase just the duration of the hold at the bottom. You can also put a barbell behind your head. There are many variations. Again, a whole full video will be required for this. Now, if you elevate your sit bones, it's an easier variation than the sitting one. We want to try to go forward. Again, try not to round and then go up. A little bit of rounding is okay, like you go forward and it's not like stop here. You can allow yourself to round, but always look for that extension, full anterior pelvic tilt to maximize the stretch of the hamstrings, and then use the strength, even push the heels down to be able to go back up. Quads are fully engaged, that facilitates the stretch of the hamstring, and it's actually what is allowing you to go deeper into this motion. If we were to round, the abs will also help you to go deeper, but since we're extending, but it's actually the muscle that is actually pulling you deeper, aside from gravity, is going to be, not that gravity is a muscle, but you get the point. Aside from gravity pulling you down, is your hip flexors and your quads are what's driving you forward, and then you go back. Again, you can add weight, or you can just simply work with your body weight. Then you can move on to the floor, and again, the tempo for this one is just like the chest flies, is you want to go a very slow eccentric, and you want to hold that bottom position, that end range that you are trying to get good at, for at least 2 to 3 seconds. So a good tempo is 3, 2, 1, 0, which means a 3-second eccentric, 2-second pause at the bottom, 1-second concentric, and 0 pause at the top. Just to make it super simple, would be 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 0 pause, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, split up, 1, and 0 pause. Again, many variations with this exercise, but that really opens up your entire posterior chain on the lower body, especially your hands, your hamstrings, which is really going to help you for everything that is handstand related and everything that is pressing related. On the next one, we're going to be seeing the opposite, which is going to be the anterior chain. Right, family, number 2 for the lower body, we have a few stuff, but we don't need them right now. We're talking about the couch stretch. You probably heard it, and it's probably named in many videos like the only stretch that everybody needs, and for a good reason. If we are always sitting down, our hip flexors get very tight, and what we're going to be doing right now is reversing that by creating hip extension. So it's the opposite of what we just did with the good mornings, hinging at the hips. We're actually now going to be extending at the hips. There are 2 variations for the couch stretch. The first one is going to be focusing more on the rectus femoris, which is one of the quadricep muscles that actually crosses the hip joint, which means that it is affected by the position of the hip joint. The other 3 quadricep muscles doesn't cross the hip joint, and they're only affected by what your knee does. If you want to stretch the rectus femoris or the entire quadricep muscle, you want to go for a posterior pelvic tilt. So we're tucking the tailbone in, you are engaging the glutes and the abs. Now from here, you're going to simply send your chest and your entire torso back without arching too much, although it doesn't really change as long as you keep that posterior pelvic tilt, and you're going to feel the stretch on your quads. I like to hold this for about 30 seconds, and then I go forward, again without arching, keeping that posterior pelvic tilt, and now we're focusing more on the iliopsoas. Then you simply switch sides. Now for most people, you're going to be having the knee right here. You're going to have to get this, and maybe this is all that you can go. Try to posteriorly tilt the pelvis, maybe use a yoga block or something to assist yourself, and simply try to stand as tall as possible. That's going to be enough for the majority of people. Like, this is already very hard, again, for many people. Ideally, the goal is to get the knee as close to the wall as possible. Then you can start here, again, always tucking the pelvis under, and then over time, try to stand tall, and get into this position. Again, this is really advanced, but you want to be working towards that. Again, I like to alternate between this one and this one. You can do it on separate days, or you can do it on the same day, same set, or there are different ways to approach this exercise. If you want a full detailed video, let me know down below. Now, for the more optimistic, advanced folks and the ones that want an extra challenge, we're going to be adding some load into it, because this one, as you probably saw, it's actually a passive stretch. So we're going to make it active. There are many ways to make it active. One way is to simply make it a loaded stretch. A loaded stretch, let's forget about this quadricep right here. Let's focus on the hip flexors, just to keep it super simple for this video. You're going to posteriorly tilt the pelvis, send the hips forward, grab some weight. These are 5 pounds. Ideally, you want to probably go a bit heavier than this, and then allow your body to just relax into it. Now, you're going to be staying a bit active here, because you need to hold the weight, and it's pushing you down just so you don't collapse. That's why it's an active stretch. But if you want to make it even more active, you can do some PNF stuff. You're holding the dumbbells right here. Now you're going to press the foot back towards the wall for 5 to 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to allow the weight and the loaded to relax. So you won't be able to see it, but I'm pressing with my foot towards the wall in 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm allowing myself to go deeper. Then you repeat that protocol 3 times, just like we did with the shoulder stretch. And the more rounds you do, so the more contract and then relax that you do, the more the second relaxing position that you do and the third relaxing position that you do, you're going to be able to go deeper. Then you rest like a normal set, and then you repeat for a second set and a third set, and you're going to be realizing that you're going to be able to go deeper. That is because creating that contraction, that activation on the muscle that we're trying to stretch in this case, it's called agonist inhibition, which means that if we activate the muscle that we want to stretch, that sends signals to the GTO, fancy names, that are going to allow that muscle to relax. Again, I could speak an hour about this exercise. If you want me to go deeper, please let me know in the comment section down below. But let's finish with the last one. If you want the middle split, this is for you. If you don't want it, you probably also want this exercise, because most people, especially us men, and our demographic is like 90% men, so you're probably a man watching this. Also, you could be a woman. Let us know down below. We're gonna be talking about the horse stance. The horse stance is going to build a lot of strength in an end range position of our adductor, ADD, which is the muscle responsible for bringing the leg forward together. And those muscles, when they are tight, they prevent us from going into what we would like to be a middle split. I don't have a full middle split unless I really warm up, but building a strength in a muscle that you wanna stretch, that's why active flexibility is so crucial and so important for the majority of people, and it's more beneficial than passive stretching alone. Again, that's a topic for an entirely different video, but in general lines, you wanna be doing some active stuff to build a strength through length. For the horse stance, there are many ways to do it. For beginners, I like to start them on only 5 steps, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th step is simply just doing this. That's gonna be your starting position. Then you're gonna sink yourself down. Some people like to put like a stick here, like it's a stick fold, and you're doing the exercise wrong or whatever. Just try to go as low as you can, and try not to cheat yourself by going up here, and really get as low as possible. Feet are facing forward, because if you do this, a martial artist will get really mad. But if this feels comfortable for you, do it like this, but eventually you wanna work towards this. Now, in terms of the pelvis position, for very mobile person, flexible people, even women that has a full middle split, doing a posterior pelvic tilt, tucking the pelvis forward and shooting the hips forward, it's gonna allow for a deeper stretch. Now, for the majority of people, us mere mortals, especially males that cannot even like get into a normal middle split because this muscle tends to be really tight. Our hips naturally are tighter than women in general sense. There are outliers, of course. For here, I want you to actually do the opposite, and I want you to anteriorly tilt the pelvis. So send the pelvis like this. Imagine you want to spill water forward in that direction. That didn't look that good, but you get the point. And from here, you're gonna send the hips back as well. That's gonna create a space between this bone and the hip to allow you to go deeper. But again, if you're more flexible, you can do posterior pelvic tilt and shift the hips forward. Just do a position that allows you to get into that knees aligned with the hip, and you are not right here. If that's too easy for you, you can increment the time. I actually set myself a goal for this year to hold it for 10 minutes. I can hold it for around 6 to 7 minutes. It sucks. It's more of a mental game than anything else. You can set that goal or just simply go to 1 minute, 2 minutes. It's already a really good target to aim, and then you can simply add weight and become stronger. But another way to make it harder is you simply go wider. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th is the one where you close. And from here, you again, it's not that I'm not doing anything, but I'm not doing enough, or the most effective work that I could be doing. So from here, sink down. Here, I literally need to anterior tilt my pelvis. Now, anterior tilt my pelvis doesn't mean that you go forward. You tilt the pelvis backwards, and then you shift the hips back, but you also lift your chest. Hands can be right here, can be right here. You can do some karate shit. You can be right here. You can do anything with your hand, with your hands, whatever, as long as you are in this position right here and you are suffering through the pain of building some adductor strength and flexibility. I think that's it. Again, if you want a detailed video for any of the stretches that I just mentioned, please let me know down below, because again, I could talk a 1 hour of every single exercise. That's why I'm speaking so fast, to keep this video as short as possible. If you enjoy this type of deep dive or longer videos, we've put this to the side and we just went straight into the heavy production videos, which we are going to keep doing. But if you want more of the raw stuff where I can actually explain in detail and actually go more in depth into the exercises that a 10-minute video cannot do, but a 10-minute videos get usually more views than a 30-minute videos. So if you like this type of video, please give it a big thumbs up. That really helps the channel to grow. Also, let us know in the comment section if you enjoy this type of video and what else we like to see. With that being said, if you're new to this channel and you want more content for calisthenics, yoga, hand balancing, movement in general mobility, general health, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you being here. If you want to train with us, we have the SM app. All the information is down in the description. We have program for yoga, calisthenics, home programs so you can train with our equipment. We have flexibility classes, high intensity interval training, calisthenics skills workouts, breathwork meditation, and so much more. And all these flexibility stretches can be applied into a full routine that you can follow in our app. But again, all the information is down in the description. I would love to see you all there. And with that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.